Well, right now, the Conservative Party looks ungovernable, and more worryingly for the rest of us, it looks, well, increasingly incapable of governing at all. Joining me now is political journalist Ava Santina, Talk TV contributor Esther Krakow, Talk TV political editor Kate McCann, and the Times political sketch writer Quentin Letts. Well, those two have the misfortune of being at the Tory Party conference. Quentin Letts, I've been waiting all day to hear what you make of this, because it seems to me, from a sketch writer point of view, Christmas has come months early.
Well, I don't know. Actually, I hate conferences, Piers. And why aren't you here, by the way? You're neglecting your duties, you coward. This conference has been very downbeat initially, but today, actually, Suella Braverman, the new Home Secretary, got them on their feet for the first time, really, and made a traditional old-fashioned Tory Home Secretary speech. But earlier, it was a snooze fest. It has been a snooze fest, as you were showing earlier with Therese Coffey's speech. And I was one of those who drifted off, I have to confess. I'd had a couple of pints at lunchtime, and it gets to you, that sort of thing. But they're in a terrible place at the moment. But things happen in politics. Things can change. Do you remember when Theresa May was 20 points ahead in the opinion polls? She was going to be strong and stable. She was going to be our Prime Minister for 10 years. Boris was going to be our Prime Minister for 10 years. And, you know, things change, things go up and down, and they're having a terrible but terribly bad time at the moment.
Is Liz Truss going to be our Prime Minister for 10 weeks? Would be my question.
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Well, you're the political sketch writer
just watching these things closely.
You're supposed to be the guy who knows these things.
But... Well, I don't know. I know nothing. None of us knows anything. I think it's very difficult to get rid of her so fast. And also, you know, where would they turn to next? Would they go for Rishi Sunak? I don't think so, because he didn't win the leadership election. Would they bring back Boris? That might actually work.
Well, they're not going to bring back Boris, but Kate McCann. Quentin mentioned.
At least he had a mandate from the public.
Right. Well, Quentin mentioned Rishi Sunak. I mean, he did accurately predict all this mayhem if Liz Truss was to win and carry through the promises she made in the leadership campaign. So actually, why not Rishi Sunak, given he seemed to be the only one who realised the dangers of what she was spouting?
Well, certainly some of the chaos, the market chaos, Rishi Sunak did warn about, but the chaos here at conference, the political chaos, I mean, I don't think anybody predicted that it would be like this. You've got cabinet members basically slagging each other off here at conference, just a couple of weeks into a brand new government. It's not a great place to be. But the question of Rishi Sunak, I mean, what it actually illuminates, Piers, on a kind of more serious point, I suppose, is the gulf that now exists between the parliamentary party, the Tories in Westminster, and the party itself, the membership, who are all here at conference, because they're the ones who wanted Liz Truss. They're the ones who like her, they backed her, they supported her. The parliamentary party didn't really. They wanted Rishi Sunak. But again, Rishi Sunak never played that well with the membership, which, of course, is why he didn't win. And that gulf is a problem, because when you come to conference and people want to hear exciting new policies, there's a disagreement. There are some in the cabinet who are saying we should do this. There are others who say we definitely shouldn't. And Liz Truss needs to come through the middle and bring everybody together. And as we've seen so far at conference, that's been pretty difficult.
Well, Quentin, the journalist who actually started all this, in a way, Noah Hoffman from The Sun, who was the journalist who just joined The Sun and revealed the scandal which led to Boris's terrible treatment of the scandal, which led to his departure. She tweeted earlier, which I thought was far be it for me to suggest she might be a better sketch writer going forward. But she said, "This Tory conference is so amazingly messy. I still can't believe it's real. Ministers going completely rogue, MPs barely here, they're still throwing shade left, right and centre, Tory members downing champagne while half laughing, half crying. We're all effed. It's wild." That's my kind of paragraph.
Well, MPs never come to party conferences. If they're Labour, I mean, there are very, very few MPs like going to party conferences, Labour, Lib Dem or Tories. So that is nothing new there. People getting tipsy at party conferences, it has been known, Morgan, to happen, I'm afraid.
I think I've got tipsy with you, actually.
None of that is new. And I have to say, I remember the Ian Duncan Smith years, the party conferences. They were ghastly events. They were pretty bad in Theresa May's time. And this one is just another terrible party conference for the Tories.
But Quentin, all right, but look, to be
things.
Serious, Quentin, for a moment, you and I have had enough time in this political arena for more decades than we would care to mention, to smell the stench of political death around a party. this all has a massive whiff of political death. Like there's a sea change going on which will lead inexorably to a Keir Starmer Labour government at the next election. Can you see any way that they turn this round now?
Well, I go back to my first answer, Piers. Although I was being jokey, I was being serious as well. You can never tell what is going to happen in politics. And it certainly does have the smell of rotting fish at the moment. But, you know, things can happen. Putin can get toppled. The British economy can bounce a bit. And then Ms. Truss could turn around and say, actually, I wasn't so stupid after all. And maybe the more time there is, the more time she's given, if she gets that time, she might not, then time can bring its own surprises.
All right, Kate, I mean, I think the calculation, as always, for Conservative MPs will be, are they going to keep their jobs in the upcoming election? And the clock is ticking. These polls are so catastrophic at the moment that many Conservative MPs will be out of a job if this carries on. So if she doesn't turn this round and the polls don't turn round, I reckon we get to Christmas and they're going to start thinking, we've got to get rid of her.
Oh, they already know that they may not have a job in a couple of years. That's not news to most people here. You know, even ministers, government ministers, newly appointed ones will say to you, oh, I'll lose my seat. I won't say that ever outwardly, so they'll never admit to it in public, but they know behind the scenes that they probably will lose their seat. You're right that there is that sense of change and momentum towards something else, but that question about Labour, that's the problem. Yeah. So Keir Starmer, as a Labour leader, doesn't attract people's votes. People's votes may well bleed that way because ultimately they don't want to vote Conservative anymore, but that's a very different thing. It's not predictable, it's not as solid. And so that's the kind of difficulty here to predict what happens next. Yes, the Conservatives are all a bit weirdly kind of happy. They keep going around asking each other, you know, how do you feel? It's a bit mad, isn't it? And they say, oh, we'll lose our jobs and it's all going to be awful. But at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily mean they are going to lose their jobs. Yeah. There could still be a Conservative win at the next election. It might not be a big one, but I wouldn't say that Labour are over the line yet.
And the other thing is the voters really don't like having their votes taken for granted, be it by a government, as we've seen, or by an opposition, or by the media,
or by us,
saying that this is a foregone conclusion, and you know you haven't got a chance.
Yeah.
So I'm just hesitant this far out from a general election to be quite so assertive as you sometimes are.
I think Truss and Quentin are toast, personally, but we'll see. I was right about Boris, as Kate knows, to her financial cost, and I suspect I'll be right again. But thank you both very much. I enjoyed the double act tonight. We may have to reenact this. But Quentin, I can see you're champing at the bit to go down to the bar, so off you go. And Kate, I know you'll be carrying on working. Thank you both very much indeed.